Welcome back to Mic Drop Analysis. Today we're diving into a track that perfectly captures the chaotic, dystopian, and surreal vibes that we love to explore on this channel. The song we're talking about today is Get Got by Death Grips, a mind-bending journey from their 2012 debut album, The Money Store. This track really shows off the band's unique and often unsettling style. With its frantic energy, disjointed imagery, and intense sound, Get Got pulls us into the fractured mind of a person who's battling both the world around them and their own inner demons. Let's kick things off with the chorus. It's like a machine gun firing off, each word landing with a mechanical, almost robotic feel. This repetition mirrors MC Ride's mental state, trapped in a cycle that they just can't break out of, caught in the chaos swirling around them. And when we hit the line, blood rushed to my head, lit hot lock, it's intense. It's almost like you can feel the pressure building up, ready to explode. Then when popping off the fucking block knot comes in, like a sudden release of all that built up pressure. Whether it's a rebellious outburst or a dive into self-destruction, this knot isn't coming undone gently. It's ripped apart in a burst of raw anger and frustration. Then there's clock and wrist slit, watch bent through bot. Here, time itself gets twisted. The wristwatch, a symbol of keeping things on track, becomes warped and broken. Wrist slit instantly brings up dark imagery of self-harm. But it could also suggest that the normal flow of time is shattered. It's like the past, present, and future all have collapsed into one confusing mess. The bent through bot drives it home. MC Ride's mind is like a malfunctioning machine, with thoughts that are twisted, distorted, and beyond repair. In the first verse, we're thrown into a nightmarish world where reality is constantly shifting and distorting. This reality paints a picture of frantic motion, like MC Ride is trying to outrun their own thoughts. The imagery is chaotic. Think of tailpipes scraping the ground and speakers blaring. It creates a scene where everything feels loud and out of control. Bailing out my brain hints at a desperate attempt to escape this mental turmoil. But as we move through the verse, it becomes clear that there's no easy way out. This line perfectly captures the moment of impact, both literally and metaphorically, where he smashes through whatever's been holding him back. The mention of Abraxas hydroplane massive adds this mystical, almost otherworldly vibe to the chaos. For those unfamiliar, Abraxas is a figure from Gnostic cosmology, symbolizing the union of opposites, like good and evil. By bringing Abraxas into the mix, MC Ride seems to be acknowledging the duality of their experience. They're both drawn to and repelled by the madness they're in. The imagery here is thick and surreal, blending elements of flight, rain, and madness into one tangled web. The black catfish tail in waves of stratus. This might represent the unpredictability of fate as he tries to navigate through the storm of confusion. And of course, the black cat. It's a classic sign of bad luck. This adds an extra layer of foreboding to the scene. The verse then wraps up with an eerie repetition. Wasn't there. This phrase, repeated over and over, drives home Ride's sense of disconnection from reality. It's like he's questioning his own existence, doubting whether anything around him is real. This culminates in the line, "What I'm looking at wasn't there," which captures a moment of deep existential crisis, a confrontation with the void that ultimately leaves MC Ride staring into nothingness. In the second verse, the lyrics take us down deeper into some heavy themes, nihilism and despair. It kicks off with the line, This really drives home the idea that there's no shortage of destructive choices out there, whether we're talking about self-harm, pushing back against society, or just battling your own mind. Remember when first got strange, now I just think it life obey. He's saying what was once unsettling has now become routine. Just going along with the chaotic flow of life, almost like giving into its absurdity. Then things get even darker with the following line. The imagery here is pretty intense, almost grotesque. It's as if he's cutting through the surface to reveal the sickness underneath. And the sickness could be anything. Maybe it's the rotten society, maybe it's personal trauma, or maybe it's a mental illness that's become impossible to ignore. Licking through you, mastermind, for mercy man cry. This really amps up the feeling of dread. It's like he's being overwhelmed by forces beyond his control. The nail through mental suggests someone trying to pin down or control his mind, but they're not having it. And when he says pigeonhole me, get crucified, it's clear that he's not just resisting, he's rejecting any attempt to box him in. And the verse wraps up with a chilling line. This suggests he was marked from birth for a life of rebellion, crime, or just standing apart from the crowd. The ski mask symbolizes anonymity and defiance. It's like he's always been destined to live on the edges of society, hidden behind a mask. The third and final verse really pulls us down deeper into the chaotic mind of MC Ride. Blending horror with a sense of rebellion. Lycanthropic hints at a werewolf-like transformation, symbolizing his wild swings between sanity and madness. Firewater, burning Bibles, paints a vivid picture of defiance. Like they're tossing out all the usual rules and rejecting the moral guidelines society usually leans on. You can almost feel his desperation to escape, to find some kind of normalcy. But there's this underlying sense of hopelessness to it. Even in all their rage, it's still caught up in the mundane, needing something as everyday as a taxi to get away from their personal hell. The imagery here is raw and disturbing. He's desperate for relief, and he's literally cracking open their skull, hoping the wind will blow away their chaotic thoughts. But instead of finding peace, they end up feeling even more disconnected, like their mind is now floating away, untethered from reality, blurring the line between life and death. This is a nod to the surreal, almost dreamlike state he's stuck in. The Nexus suggests a place where different realities collide, where dreams and nightmares mix together. And at this point, he isn't grounded in the real world anymore. He's drifting in this in-between space where every thought and memory feels twisted and fragmented. In Get Got, Death Grips takes us on a wild ride through the darkest corners of our minds. The lyrics are thick with cryptic, disorienting imagery that matches the chaotic energy of the music. Every line is packed with surreal, unsettling visuals that push us to face our own fears, anxieties, and that underlying sense of madness we all try to keep in check. The track is a prime example of Death Grips' talent for capturing the vibe of a fractured dystopian world. They capture a space where we're forced to confront the darker sides of existence, the loss of control, the collapse of reality, and the ever-present threat of self-destruction. Thanks for joining me on this exploration into the madness of Get Got. Till next time. Got my wrist in my hand and how I popping off the fucking line. I clocked and missed it, watch me time.